The contents of the lab report are meant for educational purposes only. They are not meant to be misconstrued as medical diagnosis or treatment advice.
Today, on the lab report, we have Meredith Root.
CrossFit athlete, nutrition coach, and science geek.
Did you know she was an Olympic weightlifter?
I did.
Oh.
The world of medicine can be challenging. Clinicians and patients are always looking for more options, more effective treatments, and in the end, more answers. Functional and integrative medicine focuses on addressing root causes of disease. Here at Genova Diagnostics, we've watched this field evolve and grow for over 35 years. We've not only adapted, we've led. Join us as we talk about functional medicine, laboratory testing, and optimizing health. Welcome to the Lab Report. Michael, if April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring?
Pilgrims? Hello!
Hi, Michael Chapman.
Hi, Patty Devers. How are you today?
I am living my best life. How are you doing?
What's the difference, an echelon of living your best life versus crushing it?
I think they're equivalent.
Are they?
I think.
I just wanted to clear
In my
that up.
mind, yeah.
Okay, they're not at odds or competing with each other?
No.
One's
no,
not
they're
better than the other?
Oh, no, they're equally awesome.
Okay. This is a podcast. It's called The Lab Report, and it's brought to you by Genova Diagnostics. It's where we talk about things like specialty lab testing, integrative therapeutics, functional medicine, and the like.
That's a lot.
We cover a lot of ground here.
Well, if you like this show, we hope that you go to iTunes or Spotify and maybe subscribe, rate, review, leave us some stars, some feedback, and things like that. Share with your friends.
Share with your friends. Tell everyone. Tell your pets. Shout it from the rooftop.
Wow.
Just really get after
You
it.
think
We
people
need
are really
followers.
out there that bad, like just shouting things from the rooftop about the lab report?
I don't think we do a lot of shouting off the rooftop anymore.
No, we just sort of text.
Right. You know what we should be shouting off the rooftop for, though? Meredith Root.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Big deal
Do you want to go up there? We should go up there on the roof.
Let's go.
Let's start shouting.
All right, come on. Wait, actually, I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah, and I think that roof access door is locked anyway.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I'm super pumped. Like, we need to do this up right because Meredith Root is totally amazing. I mean, we need to, ramp this up a little bit.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. We should probably be like, Meredith Root!
I think the point we're trying to convey is that she's a really well-accomplished and famous CrossFit athlete. She also happens to be wicked smart in science.
Yeah.
And she's a nutritional expert and has a whole coaching program. So she's going to talk to us about putting all of this together, how to change your life, how to stay motivated, how to learn about nutrition in a responsible way and move your body.
Let's go talk to her.
So, Michael.
Yeah.
She's here.
Oh, my gosh.
Meredith Root is here.
I'm excited.
And for those of you who don't know who Meredith Root is, let me tell you a little bit about her. Meredith Root is the co-founder of Tactic Functional Nutrition, a remote nutrition and lifestyle coaching company catering to the needs of athletes and non-athletes from around the globe. Tactic Functional Nutrition provides high-quality communication and habit-building techniques for anyone looking to advance their health and wellness through exercise, nutrition, and good lifestyle choices. Not only does Meredith have a degree and background in biological and biosystems engineering, but she also happens to be an elite CrossFit athlete, former USAW Olympic weightlifter, coach, and advanced level CrossFit trainer. Wow. She combines all of these passions to help people achieve their goals because she uniquely understands the performance impact of sports nutrition and the mental aspects of coaching and training. In addition to her work with Tactic Functional Nutrition, Meredith is a contributing writer to Morning Chalk Up, a CrossFit-based online community and blog site. And with that, welcome to the show, Meredith.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you did a really good job with that. Thank you. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
So you are very well known and accomplished within the CrossFit community for sure, but your science background is equally impressive. Tell us about your journey from biological engineer to CrossFit athlete and nutrition expert.
Yeah, so I actually started CrossFit back in 2012 when I was working full-time in process development for a company called Biogen IDEC. They're now Biogen. And so that was kind of what I did. I went to school for that and then was hired right out of school. And Biogen is one of the, it's one of the companies that people really try to work for. So whenever someone asks me like, what's your greatest accomplishment? I always say it's like, well, it's getting, hired by Biogen straight out of university, which never happens. So I worked in that field for about 6 years and then transitioned to I started becoming more and more passionate about CrossFit and fitness and health and wellness during that time. And then I took some time off in end of 2016, 2017 with the intention of going back after a year and a half. So I was just going to kind of play full-time athlete. And then, my position was essentially being held. And, I never went back. So, here I am now, and it's not something that I ever thought I would be doing, but, life is just kind of like that, right? You end up on a path that you don't expect, and it's been really good.
Cool. Well, even with the science background that you had as a biological engineer, you worked a lot with cellular nutrition. So is there overlap between your work in cellular nutrition and what you currently do in human beings?
Yeah, this is the joke, right? Cells behave and listen a little bit better than humans do. It's not a connection I even made until recently. But cell culture, if you work in that field, really a lot of the work is centered around like how do we keep these cultures healthy, and a lot of the inputs as far as substrates, nutrition are the same with humans. You're looking at carbohydrates, proteins, things that the cells need to be healthy and produce the proteins and the products that you want them to produce. And then likewise, a lot of the waste products are also the same that you see come from humans when they're stressed out. So, the science, there's definitely some overlap, but, the difficult part of working with humans is really not the science. It's the psychology of it. It's dealing with people's, sort of preconceptions about nutrition and emotions. And that's really the biggest difference. And then for me, coming from a science and engineering background, I have a tendency to just want to solve people's problems. And that's how, we'll do this and then send you along your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really it's a pretty juvenile way to coach people. Mm-hmm. So people have to solve their own problems, and you just kind of create space for that to happen.
I love it.
That's great. Well, the company Tactic Functional Nutrition that you founded with your partner, Alex Parker, has a huge global following. And how is this program different from other nutritional coaching programs out there?
Right. Well, when you look at the way that nutrition companies have existed in the space for many years, there's, the diet industry is not new. It's been around. It really kind of boomed in the 70s and 80s. That's when the industry started to take off. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. People don't realize. Mm-hmm. But the way that companies have existed in this space have always been, they shroud what they're doing in some amount of mystery, right? Because as soon as you teach someone how to do this on their own, you lose them as a client. Mm-hmm. So they don't really, these companies don't really want you to know what you're doing. Weight Watchers is a good example. Does it work? Do they do a lot of things right? Definitely. But they don't want you to know exactly what they're doing, because they want you to keep coming back and keep paying your $20 to $50 per month. And so that's kind of how nutrition is. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of pseudoscience in this space. Companies are always kind of, saying, we'll do this, and it's this very specialized approach. And so people literally buy into it. So what we wanted to do was to create a company that takes a more educational approach, and also recognizes we are not going to keep clients forever, and we don't want to. So we kind of want to, we want to lift the veil on what's really going on and how nutrition works, and how frankly, how easy it is, so that people can work with us for, between 3 months and a year, and take what they learn and move forward.
Yeah.
Great.
I love that concept. I mean, I used to tell that to patients, in private practice, was like, my goal is for you to not need to come here ever again. Right.
Real nice,
exactly.
Michael.
I don't want to see you anymore.
Well, even with that, given your amazing athletic history, many of the top athletes come to Tactic Functional Nutrition for help to optimize their performance. But do you guys also work with non-athletes or those who are merely recreational exercisers?
Yeah, I would actually say the bulk of our clientele are exactly that person, the recreational exerciser. We kind of, when we started out, I think just because we are athletes, people thought we only work with athletes. And we even, we were trying to get a lot of athletes to come with us. And we do have a fair number of high level athletes. But the longer I do this, the more value, and I just find it more rewarding to work with people who are using nutrition to literally change their lives, and not using nutrition to, shave a few seconds or a minute off of a workout time. Like that is rewarding, but to see how empowered someone can, become by achieving a nutrition or fitness goal from, kind of a novice level, I really like that. So that's kind of the direction that we've taken Tactic over the past 3 years.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, and like we were just saying, a lot of these clients maybe aren't as science minded. So how do you start? Like, how do you teach the overall importance of nutrition to people who, might not even know where to begin?
Yeah, I mean, it starts super basic. So I think, a lot of people love to overcomplicate nutrition, and they like to talk about, things like when should I eat? What supplements should I take? Should I do fasting? Should I not do fasting? When it's really like, well, have you ever eaten? When was the last time you ate 3 square meals a day for like longer than a week? Are you sleeping more than 8 hours a night? So we kind of just we try to get people to see and feel how influential the basics can be, and then once they see and feel that, you get a lot of buy-in. And so it's like I don't have to teach someone how aerobic glycolysis works. I don't need them to know, how does your body access fat stores. I just need them to feel good about what they're doing. And so that's really, it's just creating some buy-in for any amount of time.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, but speaking of that generalization and that simplification, there are so many opinions out there regarding diets. There's paleo and keto and vegan and blah, blah, blah. Is there a specific diet that you subscribe to when you're optimizing your own physical training?
I stick to a whole foods diet almost like 95% of the time. There's not really anything that I change greatly. If I'm in season or out of season, in season, I'd probably just eat a little bit more. I might be more reliant on, simple carbohydrates from like powders, but really the bulk of my intake always is, whole foods, plant-based, and lots of like, fresh lean protein, which is kind of the way that I try to get people to go in their lives too.
Oh, okay.
When you're working with maybe some of your more elite athletes, do you have any concerns about, intermittent fasting is super popular right now. So I don't know if you believe that there's a place for fasting, and if so, like when is a good time to do it?
Yeah, I think so. There's 2 ways to look at fasting, right? Like from a clinical standpoint, when you're talking weight loss, most of the data around intermittent fasting is actually early time restricted. So what that means is you start eating at 8 a.m. and you stop eating at, say, like 4 or 5 p.m. The way people like to do fasting, and this is because I think a lot of people are just a little bit on the lazy side, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. People like to say, I intermittent fast. I'm going to eat from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that, in my opinion, is actually a pretty normal eating window. I think that there's a temptation to label things, and so I could say, I intermittent fast on occasion simply because I skip breakfast. But like, am I going to say I intermittent fast on Thursdays? No, I'm just going to say I don't eat breakfast on Thursdays.
Right.
And there's no magic to it. It just, it's a day where my schedule allows for that, and I eat a bigger lunch and I eat a bigger dinner, and it's just like a thing that I do. Are there any magical benefits to it? No. Like people who train early in the morning might just say like, oh, I feel better intermittent fasting, when really like you just feel better without food on your stomach, and that's fine. Like just call it what it is. The reality of human beings is that the way that we existed, hundreds, thousands of years ago, was that we probably only ate maybe 2 meals a day. So like we're designed to go long periods of time without eating. That doesn't mean that it's what you should do. It just means that you can do that, and there probably will be no detriment to what you're trying to do. If you're someone who's working out 2 or 3 times a day, the appropriateness of a prolonged period without food would come into question. But again, you can kind of assess that on an individual basis.
Right.
Got it. Well, on this podcast, we do a lot of talking about lifestyle change, right? And in your coaching, the ability to keep someone in the right mindset is so important. So how do you keep people motivated for the long haul to create those long-term habits, even within tactic functional nutrition?
Yeah. So kind of the key with people whether it's long-term health management, weight loss management, performance, there's a couple of metrics and couple of things that we can do. Like the first thing you want to do is establish some sort of monitoring. So Whether that's just monitoring food intake with a food journal or with a food tracking app, that can work quite well. I like to get people to monitor and journal how they're feeling. So kind of the qualitative measures of, what they're doing. It's very easy to track your food. There's a dozen apps that do a really good job. People don't spend enough time tracking things like, how is my sleep quality? What is my mood during the day? Am I excited to exercise? Like, what's my general outlook on life today?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a sex drive? Like those kind of things that kind of indicate, like, are you moving in a positive direction or a negative direction with your health, involving food? So keeping an eye on those things is super important. So we kind of just remind people and give them tools to do that. And then, having some self-guided and external goals also tends to help. Mm-hmm. So getting people to set goals that aren't quite as, focused on how much they weigh or what exactly they look like. So getting people to mm-hmm. set goals, that revolve around what what they can do with their body, or good habits. So it's like, if someone comes to us and they want to improve performance, and I see that they're, eating 1 or 2 times a day, like we're going to set a goal to eat, 4 times a day. I don't really care what's in the meals, but I just want you to keep track. How many days do you eat 4 meals per day? And then let's see how you feel in the long run doing stuff like that. So it's, it's getting creative with goal setting as well. And then, getting them to get involved with the community that can help them. So we know that social commitment is really helpful for people when they're trying to change behavior or add in good habits. So, getting them involved with the gym community, getting them to tell their friends what they're up to, encouraging them to kind of go public with some of their goals, that's been really helpful for people as well.
I'm sorry, Michael. How often are you contacting your clients? Is this once a week, or how often are you checking in with them?
Yeah. So this is what makes us a little bit different too. We check in with most of our clients 3 times a week. So the contact's quite high. The communication level is quite high. And so that does a few things. Number one, it lets them know we can be part of your support system, and we want to be also, because it's vital. Really helps with compliance and accountability when we're kind of touching base a little more frequently than once a week. And then it just keeps the channel of communication open. So if they ever have something that comes up or that they're just not feeling great about or they need help with, they know that we're there and we're available, which honestly makes our job a little bit easier, because it's really difficult to get a once a week download from somebody that might include well, here's my compliance, here's my macros for the week, here's my weight, I'm super stressed out because of my relationship and work's not going well. I don't even know where to start with a check-in like that. So right. I'd rather just kind of spread that across a week and have some talking points, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Love that.
And I was going to say, so people maybe when they first come to you, do you ever get clients that are sort of I really want to do this, but I'm just, it's a lot of work. And I don't know. And then maybe after a week or a couple of weeks of check-ins, it's I wanted to go to the gym, but I just kind of didn't. What are some of your tips around that?
Yeah, we get a lot of people. There's a few different scenarios, but motivation at the beginning of any endeavor tends to be super high. And I know this personally because, I've done a number of, non-CrossFit races and things like that, where you're stoked to run or ride a bike and train for that. And then you get 2 to 3 weeks into it and, you realize that it's just going to be a really long haul of doing something you aren't super stoked about. So it's good. Motivation can do a lot to get the ball moving. We tend to see almost 100% of the time that will start to wane at about the 4 to 6 week mark. So that's when we start trying to employ some of those tactics I just talked about.
Yeah.
And then on occasion you get people, there's this tendency in our society to throw money at problems. Yeah. And so this is something that happens in the nutrition industry a lot too, where, you have someone that has a nutrition or fitness related goal and they're well, I'll just buy a membership to the gym, or I'll just, I'll sign up for nutrition coaching and that'll be, that'll solve all my problems. And then they realize pretty early on, usually, that it is going to 95% of the effort has to come from the client. Mm-hmm. And we're just there to empower and guide and educate. Mm-hmm. And so it can be a little, just depending on the person, it can be a little bumpy at the beginning to get them into a routine that they feel good about and, is easy enough for them to do. So sometimes we have to get creative on our instructions and what we are actually asking that person to do, because asking a person who, has never really monitored food intake or anything like that to start tracking, every single meal and hitting targets, like that's a really big ask for someone who usually just, eats whatever they feel like eating.
Right. No, that's excellent. That's super helpful. It's kind of asking for a friend, so I appreciate that. Can you tell us about your writing, both on your website, tacticmethod.com, and for the Morning Chalk Up? What inspires you to keep writing?
I think, I really like providing information about complex topics in a way that is understandable. I follow a number of people who are prominent in the nutrition space, and there's some sort of flexing around Twitter, and, people put up articles and posts that I read, and I'm like, look, like, you do not need to use the word postprandial in a post or a write-up that's, supposed to be understood by normal people.
Right,
So I see a lack of layman's terms in our industry really quite often. And so I like to take, some of those topics and just kind of read them, understand them, add in my knowledge, and then just explain them in a way that people are going to understand and say, oh, I get that. Whereas, they might read the same topic from a PhD or, someone else, and it's just going to go right over their head and they won't know what to do with it.
Yeah. I love your writing. I've read just about everything you did on the tacticmethod.com and in the Morning Chalk Up. And you should probably write a book.
You.
Just so you know, Meredith. You should probably write a book.
Yeah.
But we're so grateful that you came on. We're going to encourage all of our listeners to check out the Tactic Functional Nutrition team at tacticmethod.com and to read some of your writing at Morning Chalk Up. But before we let you go, we do have one last off-topic question that I'm going to kick to Michael Chapman.
Right. It's a surprise question. It's meant to make you very nervous about this question. We call it the fireball. And my question for you is, do you have a favorite wild animal?
Ooh, I do. I really like otters.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
I like water mammals. I'm kind of a sucker for them. And I read this story. I've always liked otters, and then I read this story about how the otters at the Calgary Zoo. So I'm from Calgary. They have otters out in the summertime. They were escaping their enclosure every day and going out and doing whatever it is that they were doing, and then they would come back at night. So like they were like tricking the zookeepers.
Yeah.
So I think they're really smart.
What a sweet gig.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, Meredith,
Exactly.
That was a great answer. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And like I said, we're going to encourage everyone to check out your work at tacticmethod.com.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great. Great chatting with you guys.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that was fun.
There are some really practical tips in there.
I agree with that. And I think one of the things I'm always impressed by is the ability to take complex information and distill it down into common vocabulary.
I agree with that. That's very difficult, and she does that quite well.
I'm very envious of that skill. I tend to have the inverse of that, which is
Yes,
I
you
can
do.
take very simple things and make them unnecessarily complex.
I agree with that. Also, otters.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
otters are great.
Awesome. I love that
otters.
answer. That was such a good answer.
Have you seen those videos of like the otters that like they've got a partner and they're just like floating on their back, holding hands?
Aw.
They're so sweet. Next time on the Lab Report, we're going to talk about polyphenols.
What are those things anyway?
I think they're just like they got rings on them or something.
You've been listening to the Lab Report. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our podcast, rate us, and leave us a review. To learn more about Genova Diagnostics, visit our website at gdx.net. There you'll find information on specific testing, educational resources, and how to connect with our show. Call us at 1-800-522-4762 or email us at podcast@gdx.net.
Where are we at with immersion therapy?
What do you mean? Like cold water plunges? Like cold immersion therapy?
No, I mean like filling this room up with snakes.
Whoa, stop. I'm going to have a bad dream now. Okay, then I'm bringing ants.
I will punch every single one of those ants in the face.